It's pretty windy today. We got like 10, 12, 15 knot winds. And there's a small craft advisory, so they say it's gusting up to 20, but haven't seen any gusts that big. It's mostly been like 10s, gusts to 15. So what I wanted to look at or work on today was SailTrim. And I read an article the other day about SailTrim and how to perfect it. And so I wanted to mess around with some of the ideas that they were talking about in that article. So the way SailTrim works is you're supposed to read these red little lines on there. Those are called telltales. They're red on the port side and green on the starboard side. So you can kind of see through the red on this side, you see the green on the other side. And ideally what is supposed to happen is they're all supposed to be trailing aft, straight back. So one of the problems that I've had, this is the staysail that you're looking at here. One of the problems that I've had with the staysail is the ones on this side, specifically like these here, they get caught on the stitching. This is a brand new sail, so they get caught on the stitching there, and they don't flow like they're supposed to flow. And also with this, the way this thing is rigged is the boom isn't hooked up. There normally would be a boom going from there up to here, but there's no boom, so that's removed. And this just goes straight to the traveler and then up that way, and then back to the cockpit. And then the traveler is adjustable with one line. So right now there's not like a lot of control that I have over this sail. I can really only pull it tighter and maybe let it in a little bit, which I think is all you need, but it's difficult to get those telltales to do what they're supposed to do. So generally speaking is if the red ones are not going straight back, then you want to pull the sail in. If the green ones are not going straight back, you want to let the sail out. But where you can see right now, this one is saying I need to let the sail out, which I probably could try that and see if it works. The bigger one though is the jib. So the jib is up here on the front. This is actually a Genoa, and you can see I got those telltales there, which are all generally streaming aft, both of them. The green ones are kind of a little bit every now and then going up. So that means that I could let the sail out. So there's a couple sets of them. There's another one up top there you might not be able to see with the sun, but there you can see that it's doing a little bit different thing. Well, now it's going straight, never mind. So now they're going generally aft. So now they're all going generally aft, which looks like we have that set properly. So basically what changes the telltales, all of them together, is how tight or loose the sheet is to the sail. So that's the sheet right there, the end goes back to the cockpit. So how tight or loose that is, how far out it goes or how close in it goes, will determine how those flow. The second thing that determines how they flow, and this will vary between the high ones and the low ones, is where the jib car is. So if you look back here, the point where that goes back and attaches, it attaches to a little block there, and that block is attached to a track, and that's the car. So that moves the attachment point to the boat forward or back. And if the top ones are different than the bottom ones, then that tells you that that car needs to move either forward or back depending on what the difference is. So I've been kind of experimenting with that a little bit today to try to see if I can get an increase in speed just by altering those a little bit. So the other set of telltales that you have are the ones at the end of the leach of the main, and those are those red ones, and those should generally be streaming straight back. And depending on whether they're not streaming straight back or moving forward, you can either move the sail in or out. And you can see they normally, I think you want it to get so the bottom ones are streaming aft, and then the top ones are streaming aft so some percentage of the time. So you can see right now, the bottom one's streaming aft all the time. The top ones are kind of mostly aft, and then kind of going in between aft and and back and toward the front of the boat. So the other thing that affects the main is this thing right here, which is the main traveler. And you can basically, this is where the main sheet attaches to the boom. So this comes out and it goes to this winch right here. And then so you can tighten it up or loosen it. And then that goes up to the bottom of the boom, which lets the boom out or in. And so what you can do is you can take, there are two lines, one on each side of the cabin. And you can take these and slide this way or this way. And what that allows you to do is to adjust where the boom is relative to the boat. One of the things that I've seen just kind of as a rule of thumb is you want to keep the boom roughly in the center of the boat, like when you're going upwind or you're going close hauled into the wind. So what you can do is, like, if you tighten up the main all the way, it's still going to be off, the boom's still going to be off to one side. So you can adjust where the boom is positioned based on this. So you can slide this way. Like right now, the boom is over to that side. So if we wanted to adjust that, we could take the car and slide it this way. But right now we're heading downwind, so we want the boom off to onto that side, on the port side where we're at right now. So, but if we were going upwind or if we were close hauled, then we could adjust the boom by turning the car one way or the other. So according to the article that I read, for the jib car position, if the top telltales, so the ones all the way at the top, are starting to lift up, that means that the car is too far aft and it needs to move forward. And then if the lower telltales lift, that means the car is too far forward, so it needs to come aft. And generally speaking, where the car is positioned is the closer into the wind that you go, the further aft that you need the car to be. So that's kind of, I guess, a rule of thumb for that. For the jib itself, if all of the windward telltales are lifting, that means you're too close to the wind, which you need to turn away. Or if you're too close to the wind, you can pull in the sheet, and then that will be the same as turning away. So if all the leeward telltales drop, that means you're too low into the wind and you need to head into the wind a little bit or loosen the sheet. So anyway, all of this is like very confusing. So I'm trying to get it down so I have it all kind of sort of memorized, and just by practicing doing this. So that's what I was hoping to do today. And we have enough wind that we've been able to do that. We're gonna have to tack here in a minute. So let's go ahead and do a tack. Or actually, you want to turn around and head back that way, or do you want to do another tack and go back out? Yeah, do another tack. All right, so we're going to do another quick tack then. All right, go ahead. Okay, so before we were going into the wind, now we are going with the wind kind of like at our back quarter, and that kind of like changes like the way the telltales will go, and you really just kind of put up enough sail to let the wind just kind of push you. So that's kind of what we have up now, is same thing, but now the wind's kind of coming more from the back. So it actually feels like we're going slower, but we're still going the same amount of speed. We're just not heeling as much. And the winds are kind of pretty much the same, but it just seems a lot calmer when you're going with the wind. So now we got the wind directly behind us, pretty much. I pulled in the jib, as you can see up there, because it's kind of flapping around with the wind behind us. So we just have our main up, and I left the staysail up just because it's not really doing anything, and it's self-tack. So we're kind of heading back in now. The wind has kind of died off a little bit. We're still doing about, what are we? Yeah, still doing about 2 to 3 knots with winds probably, what do we have, 8s or so, 6s or 8s? Yeah, between 8 and 10. So good sail overall, and practicing reading the telltales. So I'm gonna head on back in. All right, it is day 2 of our playing with the telltales. The wind right now is not moving very much. We only have like about 6 knots or so. It seemed like more when we first came out. It was we were getting gusts at 10, 13. So now it's like down to kind of like about 6. So not a lot of wind to push us. We're only doing about a couple knots. And we're going right now a little bit downwind-ish, broad reach to downwind. And getting ready to turn here a little bit and maybe jibe a little bit, and we'll see if we can get some wind. If I don't get a ton of wind, the next thing we're going to do is put up the spinnaker and just see how that goes up. I've already had it up a couple times. Last time I put it away kind of quickly, and I wanted to make sure I get the lines all straightened back out where they're supposed to be, and put them away the next time. So there's probably good winds for spinnaker, and that's probably what we'll end up doing. All right, now I've got the sails at wing on wing. So I have, where the wind is coming directly from our stern, so I have got the boom in the main over to the port side, and the starboard side has the jib. And right now, like normally if I were going to leave it like this, I'd want to put some kind of preventer to keep the boom from swinging over, but since I'm sitting here, I'm not going to do that. I did get some a figure 8 descender that I'm going to use as a kind of a boom brake, but I still want to figure out how I'm going to rig that. So right now we'll just kind of go off in this direction and try to stay straight downwind and keep an eye on the boom so we don't have an accidental jibe. Accidental jibe is where if we went too far and the wind catches on the back side of the main back there, then it swings all the way over really fast. So we don't want that to happen. But right now we're kind of getting a little off the wind, and the Genoa is kind of freaking out up there, but it looks like we're kind of getting it. There we go. And at this point, the telltales, they mean nothing. They're not telling us anything because the wind is just directly behind us pushing. So the other thing we could do to keep this head sail from flopping around is we could pull it out. So I have a pole, but I realized that I couldn't figure out what was going on with the front of the boat, that I didn't have a track for the pole. So normally on the front of the mast right here, there's a track that goes there, and there's a little ring that goes on there, and then you snap one side of the pole on the ring and the other side out there at the end of the jib. But there was no track there, and I realized after looking at it that this mast actually has a built-in track, and there's a big piece that goes on the front of it that has the ring on it that's missing. So my next task, I guess, will be to try to find that missing piece somewhere at some place that sells boat parts. And the other thing I could do at this point that sometimes helps is take one of the two sails down. So I could either take the jib down, or I could take the main down, and that way the wind just goes directly into one sail. Because what ends up happening here, especially if you have both sails on the same side, is this sail steals the wind out of the front sail. So but right now we'll let it do this a little bit. Okay, so right now we are out here in the bay, and the wind has died off a bit. We were doing pretty good, like 15 knots and gusting, and we got out here pretty quick, and now of course it's died down and changed direction. So just kind of cruising along. I think we're doing pretty good right now. Looking at the telltales, you can see that they're not really moving. They're kind of stuck in the thread there on the stay sail. Those kind of the same thing on those, but we're kind of like more like on a beam reaches though, so we shouldn't expect them to be moving around too much. Our wind's kind of light and going from all over the place. So there we are, trying to head back in. But it's a nice day. We've had good wind. A lot of boats out today too. I was going to put up the spinnaker. That boat over there has an asymmetrical spinnaker of some sort up, the red, white, and blue thing. But earlier the wind was coming too hard to do that, so I decided against it. Now it's died down enough we probably could, but we're not really going in the right direction. We're kind of like on a beam reach right now to get back in. But it's light winds. But here we are, hanging out in the bay, trying to head up the Severn River.